what we're going to talk about today is how do you actually change that business decision-making process. The current economy is literally exposing the decision process in most companies. When the markets are bullish, everybody's rising with the tide, we can make decisions all sorts of ways, and we benefit from the overall market uplift. When we get into this kind of an economy, and we heard some great information this morning, that's always my favorite part of the summit, I was listening to the financial report, financial information. Now we're exposed. Now we're dealing with little bitty decision mistakes make big differences, and if we don't have a good process to work with, we realize that fairly quickly. So now it's even more critical to make those good decisions, and we're going to talk about how the role of analytics can help in that. So here's an interesting fact. I think you guys will get a kick out of this. 90% of managers believe they are in the top 10%. Newsweek poll. How many managers in here are in the top 10% of managers? Oh, come on, that's not a setup. So let's assume that's accurate. I don't think it was really a wholly scientific poll, but let's assume it's, let's say 20% of people think they're in the top 90%. Why is that? This is where we're heading with this conversation. 90% of us are better than 90% of us because we've been conditioned to believe it. Most leaders are out to help their company succeed, to help themselves succeed. They're smart, or they wouldn't have gotten into leadership in a lot of cases. They've been working for a long time. So why is it that 90% of us believe we're better than 90% of us? Let's talk about it a little bit. The culture and the business practices encourage a lack of reality. Right? I got one. So all of a sudden people are dissociating, thinking, well, I stay in reality all the time. And the question is, do you stay in reality? Or has your culture in your business, or where you've worked, or where you've led in the past, has it driven you to a lack of reality? How many people have gotten word back from corporate that your forecasts aren't good enough, fix them? Anybody? Now, when you built that forecast, unless you're sandbagging, which is possible too, you built the best forecast you could with the best information you had. It goes down to corporate, it comes back, give me a better answer. Right? What's that culture telling you at that point? It's telling you the first answer, although it may be as good a fact as you can give me, isn't what I want to see. Give me something different. That's removing yourself from reality. So here's what the study shows. Most managers think they're right. How many of you are right most of the time? That's what I'm talking about. They're right about their business ideas. They're right about the market judgment. They're right about everything. My wife doesn't believe me, but I'm pretty sure I am right about everything most of the time. Is this ringing a bell? Have you seen it? When you sit in those planning meetings and you sit with the person who is the oracle, pays attention to the market, comes in and always knows the right answer. Should we invest in capital here? Should we enter a new product line? Should we get into or out of a market? There's that person at the table who is absolutely sure they're right all the time. We start that engagement, we start that conversation in an impractical way. So managers learn how to simplify the complex decisions, and they rarely look back at the impact. Mr. Wetzel and I were just talking about this specific concept that when you go and make a rhetorical decision in a planning session or trying to make a decision on an important business aspect, a lot of times we make that decision, it's not documented, it's not put down anywhere, and there's no particular way to go back and take a look at what that decision was. Part of a good analytics tool or program, prescriptive analytics particularly, says we're going to look at that decision, we're going to document that decision, freeze it in time, and be able to come back and compare to how we actually eventually did. So the first time we do that, what do you think the results are going to look like? How many people have started new metric systems over their career at any time? And the first time you go, most of you, the first time you go out and you actually set that metric, what's the response from the people being measured? Why? No way, I'm not that bad. Oh, let me cook that number a little bit and it looks a lot better for me. What you're really trying to do is set the benchmark. It's not a judgment at that point. It's can we get better? So things like average costing. standard costing. How many people have heard either of those terms in here applied to their business? Average costing, standard costing. Okay, what that is, in the past, was a necessity because we didn't have the capabilities to get into the complexities of the business. So we had to somehow simplify it so that if I'm CEO Andrew and I'm sitting in a room, I'm going to listen to a bunch of people talk, and then I'm going to say, well, give me the standard cost. Yes, sell that product because it's better than the standard cost. That'll generate revenue. Companies that talk more about revenue than profit are prime candidates for analytics. So what happens when we start to believe that we're always right is we start to interpret whatever evidence comes our way with our pre-existing beliefs. I was sure the market was going to do that. How many people have seen a monthly forecast change in the last 10 days of the forecast? Anybody? I've seen companies change their forecast the day before they release the results. They made it. They met forecast, right? They aren't doing this to cook the books, and they're not doing it intentionally to damage their business. But there's no consistency. The decision-making process is flawed, and it's fatally flawed. When the whole market's rising, everybody's doing well, that can be accommodated. When the market starts to fall and we really get under pressure, it's no longer feasible, and your company, that's when the companies start to really suffer. So decision-making in this process, when I believe I'm always right, becomes more and more and more subjective. In fact, people who may have started to really dig into details in the analytics start to stop trying to get into the discussion, right? Have you ever seen it? We've got three guys at the end of the table, and the vice president of sales says she believes we should head a direction. We get a bunch of groupthink going down there, and all of a sudden, somebody on the other side who's been doing some really good research and some really good analytics starts to pipe up, well, guys, there's a pretty big risk here. Let's check it out. What happens to that individual? We were having fun with the subjective rhetorical decision. In fact, it felt really good that I'm the expert, and everybody's going to listen to me. In fact, my title says I am the expert, so I better be the guy they listen to. And all of a sudden, somebody's bringing some data and some information from over here that might be exactly what we needed to know, but I'm going to exclude that person. So next time I come in with all the great data that I need, I'm going to say, they're going to do what they want anyhow. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever felt that? They're going to do what they want anyhow, so what's the point? So really what we're talking about is this process has to start from the top. If the key decision makers, if the owners, the founders, the C-level people don't make the decision to really get good analytics and make decisions based on that, it's going to flounder.